This has been an amazing week. I've been meditating for years, and this week, something actually changed. Like because I see a lot of things that have been going on in my life just from listening to your stories about how you went through or you're going through the path, and Shreyash and Yannick and Matt. Everything you said, some part of it is like it's just resonating. Like me trying to avoid certain aspects of life just because if I go through those aspects and I see that I get angry or that I still, I don't know, feel certain emotions, I'm not that awake and quote unquote person that realize some part of the whole picture, and that made me feel blame towards myself. Like you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be feeling that. So yes, listening to your stories make me feel like, yeah, it's just a part of the journey. Yeah, I'm trying to hide myself from feeling that emotions, those kind of emotions, just to remain more spiritual, if you will. Even after a first awakening, so that's why I chose this group specifically too, because I feel like even though the way I experience myself is different from the way I used to experience myself before a first shift occurred like 2 years ago, but just listening to you guys this week, I've realized that I even get frustrated just by trying to make a choice. Like the other day, I don't know who was the one who pointed that out to me, and he was like, "But can you make a choice?" Because I was trying to discuss with him, just from a curiosity standpoint, like, you making me to make a choice? Because if I try to make a choice, I was saying, in my experience, it's just a thought or an afterthought that the one who's making the choice. And he was like, "What, man, this simpler than that. Can you make a fucking choice?" And I was like, yeah. So it's like it frustrates me. I noticed how the frustration came about because I somehow have an aversion towards saying, yeah, there's a self too. Like, yeah, in my experience, and in my realization is not as mature as you guys, because I can just feel it in the way you talk about it. Um, and I'm at the point where, yeah, maybe looking at it from more of a precision standpoint, because what I've been doing this years has been do nothing meditation and self inquiry, and that got the first awakening for me. Maybe that's not gonna make it farther than that. And this new way of approaching it, by precision and just by like sort of deconstructing, yeah, what's going on. I think it's just very interesting, very refreshing for me, and I feel like I'm looking forward to be a part of this. Yeah, thank you very much to everybody, and yeah, that's it. Love you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw your question in the chat in the main room just before we broke out into rooms as to whether this sort of modality that's oriented towards precision is sort of compatible with people who come from that do nothing and self-inquiry space. And I would say it's specifically compatible or necessary for people who come from that space because a lot of people who have that sort of background to practice they sort of tend to create like this aware space and they're like afraid to inhabit a self again. Like that precision is scary because that precision requires you to inhabit yourself again and your patterns and like detail out this scares me about this thing. And like if you have access to some sort of space that lets you avoid all that, then why wouldn't you use it? But then that precision is precisely the thing that like is pointing you to the fact that you're still afraid of like inhabiting that self fully. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to, see that over the course of this week. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, it circles back to self-emptiness not being the negation, but actually being something that enables a more rich, more juicy self-expression because it isn't an inherent self or inherent non-self. It's not like you have never existed. No, like you are living right now. So
If
express
it's
that.
empty, then its existence shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And precision is also not standing in the way of, like, for example, heartful, vulnerable sharings. Sometimes you might think that precision is cerebral and it's all up here, but it can also include everything. How precise can we be about what we feel and express that?
Mm. Actually, like last thing for me, like that now that you mentioned that, like the sort of thing that made it for me throughout this week, in seeing that that type of practice could be really beneficial, at the point that I feel myself that I'm at. It was like, I think it was you, Shreyash, who pointed that out to me the first day, although I don't know when it was exactly, but I was frustrated because of some reason, during the practice. And then you said like, but move towards the frustration as the frustration. And that thing was like, okay, so like now precision doesn't mean that I have to reconstruct a self that's looking or something. Because if I do that, I feel like that's a thought. But instead of that, is meaning that there's no separation, because the emotion itself, the sensation itself, is being aware of itself. It's nothing apart from that sensation. And that was the thing that made it for me. And it was really real. So I thank you for that. Yeah. So
And it's the resistance to it that becomes the splitting again, right? I mean, it's not a problem while you're completely inhabiting it. It might feel unpleasant or something in the body, but then it is the process of splitting that observes the experience and labels it as unpleasant.
Yeah, that's where the exit becomes the entrance again.